Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Midday Western U.S. Regional Forecast video brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, for the whole of North America, this particular animation looking at jet stream level winds is kind of the setup for at least the next 10 plus days. And what's going on here is most key happening just south of the Aleutian Islands, and it's this broader trough that you see that's kind of cut off here in that circulation around that low pressure center. Just to the north of it, there's an area of higher atmospheric pressure that is spinning in this direction. And the reason why I'm illustrating that particular point is so key is because there's nothing right now shoving that broader trough out of its current position. So what's going to end up happening is the jet stream is going to favor more ridging coming like this over the top of British Columbia, Alberta, and then cutting back down to the eastern half of the United States with some component of a subtropical jet stream coming underneath it. And as a result of that trough developing and kind of becoming established into this area, we're going to see widespread warmth across the western part of the United States, drier conditions all for much of the west except for parts of coastal Oregon and Washington, which will at times get the benefit of this flow coming off the south side of that trough, but generally much warmer conditions that we've seen in a while across the west, while the east goes over on the cooler side of things. And here it is, by day 10, first day of May. This is how we see things setting up. That trough is still in place here, and you can see the jet stream flow favoring something like this. So with this pattern overall coming up in the forecast, let's talk about temperatures first, because what we've got coming over the next 5 days, the pattern shifts over to something like this. So Montana, finally a break over towards some warmer conditions. The Canadian Prairie is also seeing that as well. But from California up the west coast, both the European and the GFS are picking up on this warmer pattern. We might be able to see it a little bit better by just taking a look at what those maximum temperatures are and then comparing them to average. So the numbers that you see on this particular map represent the actual forecast high, and the color shading represents the difference from normal. As we play this one forward, you can see that as I go from today, where we're going to see here a lot of highs approaching 70 degrees in the Central Valley with some mid to low 70s the farther south we go here in the San Joaquin. But look at this. This is how things change for Wednesday, getting into Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I could just keep playing this because it's all going to say the same thing. We've got some very warm conditions that are heading to the western part of the United States, and the only reason why you see cooler conditions up here in parts of Oregon and Washington is simply because at times we're going to get some of the precipitation out of the far southern edge of that trough, kind of swinging around there, bringing in some clouds and precip. Meanwhile, look at the western part of the United States compared to the east. Much cooler out east, and that's a problem for a lot of folks out east right now. So day 6 through 10, GFS, European, I mean, they're just a carbon copy of one another, really kind of painting a very similar picture here. And as I go out even further than that, days 11 through 15, we see the pattern seems to be established for a little while and kind of stuck. So we're going to have to see something come through and break down that pattern before we get much of a shift overall in these temperatures. So thinking about that, I'm going to watch these maps very carefully. The first one is going to be our growing degree day anomaly maps. We should certainly be making up some of the deficit we've seen here from the cutoff lows, the increased precipitation, the cloudiness we've seen for the last 2 or 3 weeks across Southern California, Nevada, Arizona, Utah. And so I expect these numbers to really make a big rebound, and I expect the numbers that are up there in parts of Oregon and Washington and Idaho to increase as well. But with that heat, I do have now some concern. Remember, a while ago I was thinking, I didn't see much. Go back 3 weeks. I didn't see much that was saying, wow, May was going to be a scorcher such that we were going to melt a lot of our snow early. But with the increased heat now in the forecast for the next 10 days, we need to start paying close attention. Well, we always need to pay attention to this, but I'm going to start paying more close attention to our evaporation rates. So I'm going to work on this map to try to get it to look a little bit more intuitive for you over the next couple of weeks here. But what it shows you is from the National Digital Forecast Database, total evaporation for the next 7 days. And we can see with some of that warmth that, look, through parts of the Central Valley, we may be able to evaporate up to about 2 inches of water out of the soil during that time period. And while we're replacing it with some increased precipitation here in parts of the Northwest, it's going to be one where the temperatures are really starting to increase those evaporation rates. So we're going to keep a close eye on that for you to see how this increases our demand on irrigation as we move forward. Okay, next 10 days, let's talk precip. this is how things look compared to normal. You can see coming off the tail end of that trough, we do increase precipitation amounts here in parts of Oregon and Washington, but overall, much of the south and western regions from that spot are showing up in the drier side of things. So let's take a look at total accumulated precipitation. Today we do have that little shortwave that's moving through California over here, and that's eventually going to come out of the plains, creating severe weather problems here in east. But you can see that even through early this morning, we'd already added some light precipitation in this area. Let's just play this forward to see how things kind of evolve over the coming days. So now you see later this week the pushes of moisture that are coming into the northwest. I know that played quickly, but that took you out 1 week. Let's get some timing on this. So this is now working our way through the day on Tuesday into the afternoon and evening hours. So it's just generally light scattered showers across this area as that shortwave kicks out into the central plains by late tonight. Then as we watch the overnight hours into early morning on Wednesday, that's when we see coastal Oregon and Washington picking up some precipitation, and that spreads there such that by the time we get into early morning on Thursday, we do have the chance here to pick up as much as a third to a half inch of rainfall with much higher amounts at higher elevations. And then we could get some scattered showers that do come into parts of the Columbia Basin, maybe up to a quarter inch of rainfall out of this as we play this forward. So then next big push of precip, you can see it there adding, look out west, right? You see that by early Friday morning, right here, we have our next push of precip coming through, such that by Friday afternoon and evening, getting into Saturday, we then have our next big push at precip, and that's what you see at the very tail end of this animation. So we got a couple of chances of rainfall coming through here, but how much of this area is going to be cold enough to get some snow? Well, here is your next 7 days in terms of additional snow. So it's really only going to be right here along the spine of the Rockies, the highest peaks, we get our best chance at snow. And with the push coming in toward the end of the week, we could be increasing the snowfall amounts in the northern part of the Cascade Range. But overall, outside of this, much of the rest of the mountains that line the west coast are going to not see any additional snowpack out of this next few systems that come through. So, something familiar to California that we talked about so much earlier this winter was the position of this high pressure cell. We see it here again, and that is a direct consequence of that ridge that's building. So as we play this forward, let's pause it right there and step you back to show you that first big push. So we then get through the day on Tuesday, work our way into Wednesday morning. You remember that by Wednesday afternoon and evening, that's when we saw the first push of moisture coming into Oregon and Washington. So that is our first round of rainfall for this region. As we let that pass on through over toward Idaho and Montana, we're now into Thursday morning, Thursday afternoon and evening, and now we're getting into Friday morning right here. So the weekend push of precipitation, you can see it. It's coming from two distinct regions. There's a stream of moisture coming in through here, and then the deeper upper level trough is producing low pressure systems that come kicking in like this. So let's watch how they go from Friday morning here into Friday afternoon and evening. Now working our way into Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon and evening. So you saw another push coming in there. And look, here comes our next low around the base of that broader trough. But the ridge is in place. See the big ridge here, the high pressure cell at the surface? That's what's going to help keep California on the drier side of things. So now we got Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. And the size and strength of this particular low, we're going to have to wait to see how this evolves throughout the week. But it could be such that by early next Monday morning, that one could kick its front right here through coastal Oregon and Washington yet again, really increasing precipitation chances. But we have this large protective high pressure cell, which is going to allow those temperatures to really rebound and keep things dry throughout much of the state of California. But do notice, as I just keep playing this, you see the same kind of things happening here. So that seems to be the new setup as we work our way out to day 10. Looking exclusively at week 2, so this is going to be the last couple of days of April through the 5th of May. And again, we can kind of almost just bisect it just like that, where the trough sweeps through, increasing precipitation chances here in British Columbia, and then of course into coastal Oregon and Washington. But the drier pattern still overall sets up here for much of Oregon, getting down into California, Nevada, and Arizona. So drier than normal for this time of year. So what's supporting all of this? Well, it's something I'll be talking about in tomorrow's update. We had thought last week that there was a decent chance the MJO would just jump right back out here over into phases 5, 6, and 7. But if it's going to stay down here in phases 1, 2, and 3, that is supportive of more ridging across the west coast. Because overall, in the upper levels of the atmosphere, we're kind of suppressing vertical motion in this area. And in general, this is kind of just a general view of it, the jet stream's got to go around that. And that's what it's going to end up doing. And that is why we we tend to see more ridging along the west coast and the jet stream favoring more troughing coming out of this area. That's just the general flow of the atmosphere because of this. So we're going to keep an eye on that pattern and see how long it lasts, because just last night we had released to us the brand new long-range European weeklies. So this takes us just for the month of May. So I'm just going to show you the whole of the month of May. We do continue to see the warmer bias across the western part of the United States, but with the trough sitting out here, you can see the models don't want to let go of the current pattern, bringing that region over to wetter, and then much of our western part of the United States dry or near average in terms of precipitation. We'll discuss it in tomorrow's long-range update, but certainly be prepared to be, especially in California, be on guard for monitoring the water systems much more closely, as we're going to start to really increase those evapotranspiration rates due to warmer temperatures and some drier air. Okay, we'll wrap it up here. Look forward to talking again tomorrow. Have a good one. Thank you.